Right now, we are on a hill overlooking the city of Pikeville, Kentucky. Let's go back to the 1800s. Down in the valley that you're looking upon now stood a hotel. The hotel was owned by a man named James Hatcher. James Hatcher managed to find wealth in what was a relatively poor area. Not only that, he was a leader of the community. He had gained large amounts of wealth as the owner of almost 10,000 acres of land, and he used those profits to build the James Hatcher Hotel, which was said to be an Eastern Kentucky showplace, and whether rich or poor, James treated all the same. As such, he won the hearts of the community, and he dearly loved his wife, Octavia. We are in Pikeville Cemetery visiting the final resting place of James and Octavia Hatcher. There is also a baby son laid to rest here named Jacob. Jacob was but a baby when he died, and to say that Octavia was grief-stricken is a horrible understatement. She quickly sank into a deep depression, not eating, merely existing. It became so deep that she actually fell into a deep coma. The coma became so deep that she never woke up. Well, never woke up above ground. James Hatcher, although well liked and respected, could be a little eccentric. His hotel was practically a shrine to him, invoking a bit of ego inflation as he claimed that the hotel was fireproof, and other promises that sounded good but perhaps couldn't be guaranteed. Also, a curious decoration within the hotel was a specially made coffin. This was made years before his death, but he kept it on display for the curious guests at his hotel. It actually latched on the inside. You see, James had a terrible fear of being buried alive. This fear didn't just come out of nowhere. There was a reason for it. Let's back the story up just a little bit here. It is May 1891, and the city of Pikeville, Kentucky is in the midst of a heat wave. James and Octavia Hatcher had just welcomed their newborn son Jacob into the world. James and Octavia, a loving couple, had married in 1889, and here, 2 years after wedded bliss, they had a baby and life was good. Jacob, the new baby welcomed into the Hatcher household with such joy, almost immediately began suffering from health problems. And the worst was about to happen. With medical care as it was nearly impossible to combat some of the sicknesses and illnesses that would occur during those days. And unfortunately, little Jacob Hatcher didn't make it. He died shortly after birth. Octavia became severely grief-stricken and no doubt fell into a depression. The emotional toll in what had happened to her caused her to sink and sink fast. It wasn't long before she was bedridden and not eating. That depression caused her to slide into a comatose state where she would linger and then pass away. The most common thought was she had died of a broken heart. Pikeville was in a heat wave, and as such, bodies of the deceased would be buried almost immediately due to the conditions. Octavia Hatcher would seemingly be laid to rest. James was an absolute mess. He loved Octavia, and within a matter of a few months had lost his wife and his son. He did his best to honor her and even commissioned this large statue of Octavia to be crafted in Italy. Things seemed to follow the normal order of death and burial, and not much else was thought about it. However, a strange happening began affecting the citizens of Pikeville. Other residents began getting sick. They began falling into extreme comatose states in which death was almost indistinguishable. With faint, and I mean very faint heart rates, they lingered and lingered. It would have been easy to mistake them as being dead. And this is where our story begins taking an unthinkable turn. The stricken residents began waking up, coming out of their illnesses. This happened on different occasions with different people, all within a short time frame. James began pondering on the thought, and it hit him fiercely. What if it wasn't a depression? What if this illness is the exact same illness? What if Octavia's heart rate slowed to a point that her pronunciation of death had been incorrect? He couldn't bear the thoughts of Octavia being alive and buried beneath the ground. He ordered her exhumed. The emotional toll of all this had to be more than any one person could deal with. The coffin was exhumed, and it would be opened. To the horror of James in Pikeville, Kentucky, the inside lid of the coffin showed scratch marks. The lining would be ripped, and there had indeed been signs of a struggle. Octavia had indeed been buried alive, and the torment and fear that struck James was still ever present with him when he passed away almost 50 years later. A few things that I want to go over here. It is said that the hotel that James built in later life would be angled towards the statue of Octavia, so she could keep a watchful eye over James, the hotel, and the property. Another thing, this is a word-of-mouth legend that has stood the test of time in Pikeville, Kentucky, and there are people out there who swear it happened and that this legend came from extremely reliable sources. However, no newspaper articles exist, and I would have to think that a story like this would have a paper trail somewhere. Who knows for sure? Either way, the legend of Octavia Hatcher hangs thick over the city and the legends and lore of Eastern Kentucky. Please subscribe and join me for more cemetery videos, history videos, and remembrances. Once again, from Pikeville Cemetery in Pikeville, Kentucky, I will see you again soon.